With the iPad 8, Apple introduced the newest version of its simple iPad just a couple of weeks ago. At first sight, not much has changed compared to the iPad 7 from last year, but as my tests show, you do get quite a lot more power with the newest generation. I'm Andrew from MyNextTablet.com, and here's my comparison of the Apple iPad 8 with the iPad 7. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I'm reviewing almost every tablet that gets released, all from Apple, Microsoft, Samsung, Lenovo, Huawei and others. Both iPads have a lot in common. In fact, most things are identical. So let's start with what differentiates the two, and that is the processor. While the last two generations feature an Apple A10 Fusion chipset, the newest one has an Apple A12 Bionic processor. Just like last year, we get 3GB of RAM and you can choose between 32 and 128GB of internal storage, and LTE is an option too. The Apple A12 is the same chip that was introduced with the iPhone XS and XR and is also used in the iPad Air 3 and the current iPad mini. And benchmark results are very similar. In Geekbench 5, the iPad 8 gets about the same results as the iPad Air 3 and mini. The slight differences regarding the multi-core and graphics score are probably mostly due to software. Well, you can see that the iPad 8 is much faster than the iPad 7 with its A10 Fusion. The iPad 6 has the same A10 by the way. Synthetic benchmarks are one thing, but how different is the performance in real life? If possible, I always render a 9-minute 4K video in Adobe Premiere Rush for my reviews. While the iPad 7 needed 13.5 minutes to finish that project, the iPad 8 rendered the video in just 7 minutes. Now that's even more impressive if you see how much longer the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 and the Microsoft Surface Pro 7 need. Yes, the render performance of the cheap iPad 8 is better than those premium devices. I think most people don't want to edit videos with their tablets, but many want to play games. And as the benchmarks suggest, the gaming performance of the iPad 8 is noticeably better than on the iPad 7. For instance, while you can play PUBG Mobile with graphics set to HD or HDR on the iPad 7, you can set the settings to Ultra HD on the iPad 8. And the graphics look nice, and PUBG runs super smooth. Other games like Call of Duty seem to run a bit better too, although here it's hard to measure a difference because the graphics can be set to the highest on both tablets. But basically, you can expect every game to run great on the iPad 8 for years to come, because devices with the same A12 chip have been super popular. Now, that won't be forever the case with the iPad 7. Games like PUBG show that not everything can be played with the highest settings here. And among those games is Fortnite, once it's back at least. On the iPad 7, you were able to set the graphics to high only, while the iPad Air 3 was able to play it with epic settings. That should be the case with the iPad 8 too if Fortnite ever returns. With less demanding tasks, it's very hard to see a difference between the two generations. Sometimes I have the feeling that Safari or Adobe Lightroom or so opens a bit faster on the iPad 8, but if so, it's barely noticeable, so that I sometimes wonder if it's just a placebo effect. Multitasking works great and similar on both. With standard office work, you won't notice any real difference. The iPad 8 offers a bit better battery life, which might be because of new software or the more efficient processor. When streaming HD videos at maximum brightness on YouTube, the iPad 7 lasts exactly 5 hours, while the iPad 8 can go up to 5.5 hours. Besides the different chipsets, everything else is the same. The iPad 7 and 8 both have a 10.2-inch IPS display with a resolution of 2160 by 1620 pixels, and they are very bright with 500 nits. A major downside remains that the screens are not laminated, so on both you can see a small air gap below the touchscreen. That can be annoying when working with the Apple Pencil, which again works and performs the same. You can get the same Apple Smart Keyboard cover for both tablets, which I think is a good accessory if you like to work while traveling. We get a low resolution 1.2 megapixel webcam with both, and the 8 megapixel main camera is the same too. Touch ID works great, just as we're used to for years now. and both continue to have a headphone jack and the lightning port. Actually, there is a small difference here. The iPad 8 ships with a Lightning to USB-C cable and has a USB-C charger. With the iPad 7, you get a USB Type-A charger instead. Out of the box, the software is a bit different since the iPad 7 ships with iPadOS 13, but Apple released an update to iPadOS 14 for all their current tablets, so the software is identical once you update. The scribble feature works the same on the iPad 7 too. Okay, that's the end of my comparison of the Apple iPad 8 with the iPad 7. You've seen it, the only difference is the processor. The iPad 8 is much faster than the iPad 7, which you don't see in benchmarks only, but also when playing games and rendering videos. If you don't do that, you won't notice any real difference. Since Apple did not raise prices, I think you should get the iPad 8 if you're looking for a new tablet. It makes no sense to get the iPad 7 now unless you can find a really good deal. Because of the faster processor, I think the iPad 8 will be updated longer, which is something you should keep in mind because iPads can last very long. If you own an iPad 7 or even an iPad 6 already, it probably makes no sense for you to upgrade. Well, unless you feel that your tablet gets too slow and you need a bit more performance for gaming or so. But for most, it won't be worth it. Alright, that's the end of my comparison of the iPad 8 with the iPad 7. If you have any questions, write them down below. I'm NJ from mynexttablet.com. Thanks for watching and see you next time.